This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
All right, Greg, it is the Colts, it's the Patriots, it's a Saturday night game, and more important than it was even 24 hours ago, given what happened Thursday night with the Chiefs and the Chargers. We'll get into that. First off, we want to tell everybody the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Go to linkedin.com/Bedard, post your first job for free. Now, Greg, we want to talk about, we'll start with last night first. And again, just to let everybody know, John Zannis here subbing in for Nick Cattles. Chiefs should have lost this game. And this really messes with the Patriots' mojo here and everything that they need to do down the stretch. They had a little margin for error. They don't have it anymore. And the Chiefs look to be in the driver's seat for that first seed. And you wrote about this over at Boston Sports Journal, just the path for the Patriots and what it's going to look like. You already had them as the 2 seed behind Kansas City because you think they might eat a loss before the season is over. This really makes it hard for them. They have to be perfect.
Yeah, pretty much. I wrote a column basically like, five questions coming out of the bye for the Patriots down the stretch. And my question number one was, how does this all end for the Patriots? And you can go over to BSJ and see that whole column. And I broke down, basically it's going to come down to the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Titans for the number 1 seed in the AFC. And, you look at Kansas City, they just played the Chargers last night. They have the Steelers. The Bengals are a good team. I don't think the Chiefs are going to have much problems with them, even though that's on the road. Denver's on the road. Divisional games are always tough, like last night. So there are no gimmies left for Kansas City, but last night was the best chance for them to lose. And basically, the Patriots need the Chiefs to lose at some point, or else the Patriots have to win out. And myself, I find that hard between the Colts game on Saturday night, the Bills game. The Bills are going to come out here looking for revenge. Hopefully the weather is, a little bit more even this time. And then the Dolphins are no layup at Miami, the season-ending game. They're one of the red-hot teams in the AFC. So last night's game that the Chiefs came back and won that game was, I wouldn't say a huge blow, but it was definitely a blow for the Patriots and the number 1 seed. And to me, I'm sure there are a lot of Patriots fans who watched last night's game and are just furious about what happened, because I thought that the Chargers left at least 6 points on the board, if not 9, with 4th down decisions from Brandon Staley. And I was just puzzled by all of them.
Let's get into that, because today is a huge day for the meatheads versus the mathematicians. And I know the real answer lies somewhere in the middle. It's always a more nuanced debate than people are going to have. But this was a classic look, see, take math and stuff it sort of night for the, for the Phil, everyone played the Phil Simms clip, went viral from last week, analytics this, analytics that. I know in my gut what I see. But last night was one of those read the situation as much as the math sort of things. And the Chargers definitely shot themselves in the foot by following the math, so to speak.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm a big analytics guy. I like analytics.
Yeah.
I don't love the 4th down and 2-point stuff, because to me, and Brandon Staley basically in his post-game press conference basically said, like, he relies on his spreadsheet, and it's the whole default. You hear the same thing from John Harbaugh in Baltimore when he goes for it, like in that playoff game a couple years ago. He kept going for it, and he's like, well, I'm not going to coach scared. I believe in our team. It's a BS default, and it's a BS answer. Basically, here's where I come down on this. I'm fine with being aggressive, but the number one thing you have to do is you have to assess what kind of game you are in. And that Brandon Staley said after the game, he's like, well, we need to score touchdowns. We can't kick field goals against that team. That just tells me he doesn't understand what kind of game he's in. That is not the Chiefs team from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They're not. Other teams have solved them. Patrick Mahomes, and last night's going to cloud this, so a lot of people are going to listen to this and be like, Bedard's crazy. He's a moron again.
Right, but they have not been stacking up points the way that they have in the past. They're actually winning with defense, and again, Mahomes has been struggling. So you're right. You're playing this Chiefs team differently now than you have in the past.
Patrick Mahomes is not the same guy. Last night's going to cloud it. They're going to look at the final drive, which was more about the ineptitude of the Chargers defense that they, look, Tyreek Hill's going in and out of the game. All you have is Travis Kelce. Any coach worth their salt would have been eliminating him from the game and say, you want to beat me with Pringle and Mecole
That's what
Hardman?
ththey've been doing. Have you seen his stats recently? He's been putting up 2 catches for 30 yards every game.
I mean, Mahomes, there's something wrong with him. I think it's probably a continuation of the turf toe, the surgery that he had in the offseason, that he's just not right. But there's his upper body's detached from his lower body. Like, there's just like that 4th down throw. And Andy Reid also went for it in a stupid point of the game where he could have taken the lead and instead went for it. And Patrick Mahomes missed a wide open receiver by about 10 feet. When Patrick Mahomes is on, he doesn't miss that pass ever. Yeah. It's a touchdown. Well, and that just illustrates that he's not the same guy. So Brandon Staley, did not assess what kind of game he was in. And number 2, 4th downs or what have you, 2-point conversion, 4th downs are not all the same. 4th and 1 at the 40-yard line is not the same as 4th and 1 on the goal line in a compressed defensive formation. There's not enough room for people to go. And here's the bigger thing. The ones that I had the biggest problem with was the opening drive. You were given a gift on the kickoff return that you basically started at the 20. It was a gift. You didn't have to do any work. You were already in field goal range. Take the points. And then right before halftime, you have a chance to.
That's the one there. That was a gift. 3 more points. Take the points.
And keep the momentum.
Yeah.
You gave a huge lift to the Chiefs right before halftime when you could have put your foot on their neck a little bit. And, yes, the Chiefs got the ball coming out of halftime, but you stop them and get the ball back. The game's over. Here's the other thing about Brandon Staley and his decision. The Chiefs did not stop the Chargers until very late in the game. Like, there was 10 straight drives.
Yeah.
Where they drove deep. They could not stop. They couldn't stop the running game. They couldn't stop Herbert. He was on fire. And to come out with, what did they have? 14 points for a while? That just shows you that they weren't producing enough points. He should have taken the points. He didn't realize what kind of game he was in. To me, it was a total coaching failure, and the Patriots were one of the losers in last.
But it is multifaceted, and you're right. It's not just where you are. It's knowing your team. What's your team's strength? Are you good in these 3rd and short situations? Also, if you've convinced yourself, I'm going for it on all 4 downs if I'm this close, then run all of the plays that precede that 4th down call with that in mind. Don't start throwing fades and low percentage plays on the ones before that. Run it more times up the middle if you know you want to get 1 yard, 2 yard, or whatever that is before you get to 4th down. Then you probably won't even necessarily get there. So I think that those things factor in as well. But you're right.
Wait, one more point on that related to that, John. And it just reminded me, and this is a criticism that I've had of, some people are have been critical of the Patriots, not going for it. And they're sometimes against Tampa, against Dallas, there were games where I thought they should have gone for it. But some of the criticism, what people also don't factor in is that these 4th and short situations, 2-point situations, they're all basically the same. Okay. How many good, 2, 3, 4 yard plays do you think people have?
That's the whole point.
And if you're going for it, the first one you go for, you don't get it. That's one that you don't have for later. And you do not have an unlimited play calling supply against that team in that yard. You come out with 4 or 5 plays, and if you're burning them when you could take points where you don't know where the game's going to go, what are you going to have at the end of the game when you really need one? Now, all of a sudden you're on your 5th or 6th best play in that situation.
Yeah.
And that also factors in.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Is you've got usually teams have their gold standard 4th down gadget, whatever it is. This works every time. And I need the 2 points badly. And this is the play I'm going to run. And you're right. You're deep into your playbook there. that being said, if teams are going to start going for it more on fourth down, they're going to have a deeper reservoir of plays from which
Bailey
to
needs
pick.
like 25.
Because you're going to need him because he's going for it all the time. And on the Mahomes point, before we move on, because there's a couple other items we want to get to, and obviously we got to get to the Patriots game as well, because that's what we're here to do. You said Mahomes isn't the same guy. You think it's maybe an injury thing. How much of it is him being drunk on his tools and his ability? Because, I mean, how many times do you see him just drop back and set his feet and throw a pass in the way that you're taught to do it? So much of it is on the run, the weird arm angles and this and that. The play breaks down, looking for the home run. He's done a ton of that this year, and I know they put a focus on, taking what's there and the check down and this and that, but it really hasn't. I mean, last night was the first real explosion in a bit for them.
Yeah, and maybe that gets them on track. But I think you're absolutely right, John, to bring up that point. There's a couple things that I see that have changed for Mahomes. Number one, he's playing out of structure of the offense too much. And you often see this. Like, I remember Aaron Rodgers very early in his career when he took over for Brett Favre. It's these guys who, the athletic quarterbacks, you're starting to see it with Josh Allen this year in year two, where when those guys stay with the structure of the offense and they read their keys, they're much better off. But they do fall in love because they're like, well, I'm a great athlete. I can make a play. And sometimes that's great, but sometimes that's really bad. To me, seeing Mahomes miss some really layup throws last night, to me, that's mechanics. It means it's partially injury related. But there were also more times than I've ever seen, that Patrick Mahomes is just missing wide open guys that aren't there, that he's just not seeing within 2 or 3 seconds of the snap, where, Patrick Mahomes 2 years ago sees those guys, hits them, and they're big plays and they're efficient in the passing game. Right now he's missing them. So he's not, to me, he's struggling physically, and also he is not seeing the field like he used to.
Yeah, and as Greg wrote, as you wrote in the Boston Sports Journal piece, how does this end for the Patriots? We can make them read it, or we can jump to the end. You want to jump to the end here?
Yeah, well, I will jump.
Spoiler
to the
alert:
end.
Chiefs are the
Spoiler
1 seed,
alert.
and the Patriots don't make it out of the divisional.
Chiefs are the number 1 seed. I have the Broncos. Excuse me. Finish as the 7 seed. And they come to Gillette. Patriots take care of business in that game. Not a problem. But then they meet the Titans. The Titans.
I thought you had the Bills. Broncos,
no.
Patriots. You're right. Broncos, Patriots. Yep.
So I have the Colts over the Bengals in the 4-5 game. The Colts are the 5 seed. Tennessee's the 3. They take care of business.
With everybody back, presumably by that point. Possibly even Derrick Henry.
And so Indianapolis would go to KC as the number 1 seed. Tennessee would come back here. Obviously, I'm projecting the Titans to be at full strength. Derrick Henry, Julio Jones is back. A.J. Brown, assuming he's back. Sort of like the discussion that we had after the Titans game, where I left with a lot of questions about the Patriots. A lot of people left with beer muscles about a 23-point victory, which, if you really look at it, the Titans were 2 yards away from making a 1-score game midway through the fourth quarter with a half a team. And I left thinking, ask yourself this: if Mike Vrabel is on the plane ride home to Nashville right now, do you think that he feels better about a rematch with the Patriots in the postseason, or worse after that game? To me, no question, he felt better. That if I can do that with half a team to the Patriots, I'm coming back in here and I'm kicking their ass. Right. And I project the Titans to upset the Patriots in the divisional round, which to me is still a good season for the Patriots. I don't have any problem with that result.
Yeah, we need a wet blanket sound effect for this podcast. just a squish. So that's how it goes. But again, read up on that. This was good bye-week reading. It's 5 things kind of facing the Patriots. Obviously, we're heading into the game here, so everyone's going to be charged up, singularly focused on that. But a lot of questions about things. And again, the problem with the Patriots and what you wrote about here, not the problem. There's still so many games where you you don't know what you learned because of circumstances, because of how they played out, because of a team being undermanned. So, but it's again, there's still some stuff you want to see. And among the things Greg talked about, and again, go over and read it. We're not going to spend more time on it here. How that secondary is going to hold up, how they hold up against good passing, good balanced offenses. And how
can they come from behind?
Can they come from behind, which we haven't seen? Can Mac Jones come from behind, which he hasn't done maybe since high school? These are all interesting things. Head over to Boston Sports Journal and make sure, if you haven't subscribed already, do so. And if not, if you are a subscriber, go check those out. That's good reading here to kind of carry you over into tomorrow's game. Another Patriots-related item, Greg, we wanted to get to, or could be a Patriots-related item, we don't know. But the huge news this week, Urban Meyer gets whacked. Didn't know if it would happen in season. Him lasting the entire season seemed unlikely the way, that whole situation unfolded there. That situation or not, Josh McDaniels is going to be a hot name again this year after kind of things cooling off with him and the end of Brady and the Patriots offense falling off a cliff the last couple of seasons. All of a sudden, he's going to be buzzy. I'd be shocked if he has a good opportunity that he turn. I don't think he'll be as selective this time around. If there's a good opportunity out there, this might be the chance to get it. And to me, the Jacksonville one, I'd be stunned if there isn't a wink-wink agreement already in place, because McDaniels to me seems perfect to head down there to a place where they wanted to build a program with Urban Meyer, didn't because he's a dink, and wasn't ready to do it and was the wrong guy to do it. You want culture. Obviously, everybody wants the Patriots culture and wants a piece of that, and that's what everyone's striving to do. McDaniels on a second chance, having learned from his first failure, and a quarterback. You need a quarterback whisperer because you don't know what kind of damage you've done to Trevor Lawrence in year one. This situation makes a ton of sense to me. It's almost too much sense.
Yeah, I agree. So, what we know now, the Jaguars are open. The Raiders are open.
Yep.
We think the Bears are going to be open at least. Right. Yep. And you look at those three jobs and, Chicago's certainly enticing because you got to think that Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be out of the division. The Vikings could fire Mike Zimmer. That's another one that could be open. But Rick Spielman's a very strong GM there. I don't see that working. I don't think they have any relationship. The Lions, of course, are rebuilding. The Packers will be rebuilding as far as their quarterback. And so that has to be enticing depending on how Josh McDaniels feels about Justin Fields. I do not think he was high up on the Patriots list of quarterback prospects this year. Vegas would be enticing because you could set up your own sort of fiefdom there. I think, Mark Davis, you have to look at the ownership and ask a lot of tough questions. But he leaves people alone for the most part and, lets you do what you're going to do. But you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert for the next 10 years, and you don't have a quarterback of the future. So that's a tough job. To me, I agree with you. I think that Jacksonville is the best job. The Colts will be good. Mike Vrabel's there. So the Titans will always be good, but there's no dominant team. There's no dominant quarterback in that division.
You're also getting a runway. They want you there to build something for the long haul, not to win tomorrow in Jacksonville.
Right. But the problem is like, I have a lot of respect for Shad Khan and his son, Tony Khan. I know Tony pretty well. They're really good people and they really do want to win. They make a lot of mistakes. I don't know who they're listening to. You get a lot of these owners who listen to certain people like, Mark Davis will listen to John Madden. I don't know what kind of shape he's in these days, but he hopefully for McDaniel's sake, he also listens to Ron Wolf, the father of Elliot Wolf, who is now in the Patriots personnel department. Ron Wolf was here all during training camp. So he got an up-close look at Josh McDaniels, and he might go to Mark Davis and be like, dude, Josh McDaniels is your guy. Like, he's ready to be the next Belichick. But as far as Jacksonville goes, the Cons have screwed up a lot of things. They are usually patient with their guys, whether it was Gus Bradley or Doug Marrone or the GM that they had there, David Caldwell. But if they're serious, like, they have to do what's best for Trevor Lawrence. Like, he is the franchise quarterback. You cannot screw him up again. Right. But here's the problem. The Cons sunk a lot of money into Urban Meyer, a lot, that they're going to have to, even if Urban Meyer, you can fire him with cause to get out of the rest of his contract. they still signed a lot of assistants for a lot of money for a lot of years that they're going to have to eat. A lot of times in these situations, you get owners who say, you know what? I'm just going to try to piece this together. I already have the GM in place, Trent Baalke. Darrell Bevel is here. He's Trevor Lawrence's offensive coordinator. He can make it work. He's been an offensive coordinator. He's been on the precipice. He's interviewed for jobs before. Why don't I just make him the permanent guy and see if that can get by? Or you get a Jim Caldwell or a Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich has no head coaching experience. I could see them trying to get by for a couple of years to sort of, mitigate the loss of Urban Meyer. To me, that would be another humongous mistake by them.
Yep.
Basically, you need to say, who is the best person for Trevor Lawrence? And when you look around and you see what Josh McDaniels has done with Mac Jones, what he's done with Matt Castle, what he's done with Jimmy Garoppolo, let alone his working relationship with Tom Brady, I don't know. I don't know if there's a better candidate out there. And if they're serious about, like you said, changing the culture, becoming a winner, some people scoff at the Jacksonville job. To me, what was Foxborough when Bill Parcells got here? Like, very similar stadiums, didn't look like much of a future, outpost, games blacked out, all that stuff. Like, to me, if you're McDaniels, you go there. The division isn't that great. You get to turn things around. There's not much media there. You're basically left alone to do what you want. To me, I think it's a great job. And the Jaguars would be fools if they didn't seriously consider Josh McDaniels.
And again, it makes sense. The two things that are going to hurt Josh, obviously, his first go round and how spectacularly bad, how Urban Meyer level bad it was there, and how quickly that unraveled. Two, the Belichick coaching tree and everybody who's gone in there and tried to stuff Patriots culture into whatever organization they went in with the my way or the highway sort of approach, and that blew up completely. And you see it going bad with Judge as well there with the Giants. Patricia was an unmitigated disaster in Detroit. And then third, that flake out. So again, all of these things are still spiraling over McDaniel's head. You don't know. It really only takes one, but it also only takes one of those things for any one of those owners to just have him on their do not draft list, so to speak. He's great, but I'm not going near there. Just there's too much baggage associated. So it's hard to know how people feel. I'll ask you, do you think some of that stuff has spurning the Colts that first time around, or whatever he did in his first time through has dissipated in league circles?
A little bit. I think people are still, they're very cautious about, Josh, and I'm sure they will get things in writing very early on. The Colts never got things in writing.
Right.
And look, a lot of it was not, and he knows he has to have explanations for all this stuff, because that and Denver are two of the top things that he's going to be asked about. Yep. And he needs to have good answers to those questions. And, the first with the Colts, what ended up happening, as far as I know, is that, and this is something that I'm going to write for BSJ at some point. And a lot of this is Bill's fault. He and God love Bill, and I understand, and it's good for the Patriots, but it's not all about the Patriots when you have people working for you. He can be singularly focused, but you could take a couple hours to have a conversation with Josh McDaniels before the end of the season. And it should happen very soon. Like, he could have had it during the bye week, where you let Josh know exactly where you stand and how long does it look like you're going to coach. The problem the first time around is Bill's so singularly focused that Josh did not talk to Belichick and the Krafts about his future until the season until he already agreed with the Colts. Suddenly the season ends, he's getting ready to go on a plane. Suddenly Bill's like, Josh, I'd like to talk to you. And then he comes in and he hears all this great stuff from Bill about Josh. You're such a valuable piece here. I couldn't do a lot of this without you. Look, I don't know what was said. I'm just making things up. But, there's a lot of things I couldn't do here without you. You're basically the head coach in the offense. Like, I want to give you a humongous raise. I want you here. And suddenly Josh is like, what? I have never heard any of this stuff.
Yeah, your wife has her Yeah, your wife has her bags packed and she's at the door and then you tell her you love her and, for the first time, it's like, exactly. It's, you can't wait that long. But again, you don't know also, are there assurances in place? That's the last thing
Yeah.
is there okay, I don't know if it's 2 years, but it's a 3 to 5 year window. And as soon as that's done, we don't even interview another guy. It's yours, buddy. And if that's in place, that would be a different story as well. But you don't know if anything like that was ever agreed upon or discussed.
As far as I know, it has not been. I do think part of the equation is I don't know if McDaniels or a lot of people want to be the guy that
They're replaced. Follow
succeeds,
Bill. Yeah.
follow Bill, because you're basically in a no-win situation. And suddenly you're George Seifert. How is George Seifert viewed? Those
Right.
titles aren't his. They're Bill Walsh's. And, so all of a sudden Bill gets the quarterback and gets things tuned up, and say they win a Super Bowl or two in the next 5 years, and suddenly you step in and you win a Super Bowl title. Who do you think is going to get credit for that? Ain't Josh McDaniels. It's Bill Belichick. Right. And so a lot of people, it appeals to them to go start their own thing from scratch. And I think that's part of the equation. But to me, it's incumbent upon Bill as a human being, especially after what happened last time with that last hiring process,
to make
where
it clear.
McDaniels got screwed out of even interviewing for the Giants job. That went to Joe Judge. And so Bill basically owes Josh one. And he needs to either make clear to him right now what the future is and what he wants, and give him another raise and say, don't go on these job interviews before he even does. If you want him here and you want to make him an offer, make him it now, or otherwise give your blessing for everything. The rules have changed. They can now interview the final 2 weeks of the season. If there's an opening, if the team approves of it. If that's the case, Bill cannot stand in Josh's way. He has to let him interview after what happened last time. It'll be fascinating to see what happens.
Yep. So that's going to be buzzy. And as you said, the rules have changed a little bit. So we might have more clarity on the situation earlier than you normally would, with a bye-week interview situation really being the only opportunity, for this thing to come up. So we'll see what happens. A lot of NFL jobs going to be available. We mentioned lots of them. Speaking of new jobs, if you want to get one, we've got a great deal for you where you can head on over to LinkedIn Talent Solutions and get that taken care of. Greg, why don't you tell people about it?
Yeah, John, these days it can be hard to find and hire the right candidates for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs made it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. And everybody knows over at BSJ, we are a small independent business, as is CLNS and North Station Media. And I often go on LinkedIn and I hear from people, I hear from candidates, intern candidates. We'll be looking to ramp those up this coming year. And I go on there and I look all the time and I get messages, and it's one of the ways. Going on LinkedIn is definitely one of the ways I keep my eyes on job prospects, because we're always looking for the next great Boston sports writers and content providers. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, and use screening questions to get your role in front of only the most qualified. I definitely do that. Then use the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to quickly filter and prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses like BSJ rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Bedard, Bedard. That's linkedin.com/Bedard to post your job free. Terms and conditions apply.
And honestly, do it. Some people, one of the reasons they're afraid they don't use these platforms is they try to find other ways and they don't want to pay for it and this and that. And so take that shot. You're going to get an insane amount of candidates here. We use it a ton, at CLNS as well. So again, posting that job for free, great opportunity to see the benefits of it. If you're not using LinkedIn right now, I'm doubling down on this. I say head on over and do that. Once again, linkedin.com/Bedard, post your first job for free. Greg, let's get to the Patriots-Colts.
Huge
game Saturday night. It's gonna be a game that's probably solved by the by the big guys up front. We know a lot about the Colts running game, and who better to talk about big guys than a former big guy, now skinny guy, Greg Bedard. But you wrote about this and you talked about it, and you've got some things you're worried about and some things that you feel good about. So let's break those down. What worries you most for the Patriots heading into this game?
The Frank Reich factor.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, I think a lot of. He is not perfect. I will certainly say that. This is a guy who was basically the brainchild. It was not Doug Peterson, the visor, in Super Bowl 52. Was that 52? Frank Reich knows there are certain guys who are comfortable scheming against certain schemes. Like Josh McDaniels and the Patriots are great against the Seattle cover 3. Frank Reich knows the Patriots system. He knows how to target it. He will make you defend every blade of artificial turf come Saturday night. He will exploit some of the mismatches. He's really one of those formidable opponents in terms of offensive coordinators, game planners, play callers. And so, he's the first thing that I'm worried about in this game. What he is going to have things in the back of his pocket. Judging off that Super Bowl against the Eagles, I would look for whether it's Jonathan Taylor or Naheem Hines, the other running back, getting their running backs involved in the passing game down the field. That's something we saw with Corey Clement in that Super Bowl. I would do the same sort of thing, get them matched up with whether it's Juwan Bentley or Dante Hightower or Jamie Collins, get them matched up. He's going to have, especially his script early, is going to be really good, and it's going to throw the Patriots for a loop. I would not be surprised if the Colts go down and score on their first possession. But then the game is going to be on, and who's going to win the chess match there.
Right. And so let's lump the next two together. It's obviously the Jonathan Taylor factor. He's the best running back, certainly now with Derrick Henry gone, in the NFL by a considerable margin. He is both, a powerful back, and he has breakaway speed. So you got to be really, really careful with him because he can bust one. And that plus the interior of that Colts offensive line, which is like ridiculously good, going up against the Patriots defensive front, and whatever they're going to throw at them here. And how do you think, and again, we're looking at, they've kind of settled in with their guy Davis Godshaw sort of matchup here, heavy against the run. How do you think those guys are going to stack up?
I think the Patriots are going to do pretty well, but you have to worry about Jonathan Taylor because he's the type of back that if you have one breakdown in your gap control and your run fits, and we have seen this from the Patriots in just about every game. Even when they play good run defense, they have bad plays. For example, what was that game when they ripped off like a 75-yard touchdown? Outside of that, they played really good run. That was the Titans game. And it wasn't even Derrick Henry.
And it was late. Yeah, right.
It was a big play.
Yeah.
And, that's the type of thing. I assume both these teams are going to stack the box against the run. And, we saw that. I mean, the Patriots, Damian Harris busted a big one. You can have as many guys in the box as you want. But if your run fits aren't right, if you're not disciplined, if guys aren't doing the right thing, you can get exposed. And so, I worry about, Quentin Nelson, the left guard, we know is one of the best in the league. Ryan Kelly, the center, is really good. He's been in and out with injuries and COVID. Danny Pinter, the backup, is really good young player.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on Glowinski, the right guard, but look, the Patriots. Devon Gottschall is coming off the best game he ever had with the Patriots. One of the best interior games you'll ever see. It was Vince Wilfork-esque. That was against a bad center. He's not going up against a bad center in this game. Against good centers, he's had a tough time. The Patriots' run has had a tough time. But the big thing is like you got to be able to stop the run to put the ball into Carson Wentz's hands. Both these defenses, even the Colts said it out loud. Both of these teams want to put the game in the opposing quarterback's hands. Which team is more successful is going to win this game on Saturday night.
Right. So that's what you're worried about, and everyone's going to be worried about the Colts running. However, there are things you're confident in, of course, and one of them is this. And again, is this a game where coming off of 3 passes against Buffalo in a dome stadium, against a team that you know is going to prioritize stopping the run against you? Is this the let Mac cook game? Is this the Mac Jones 35 passes game you see going against this Colts defense, or are they going to keep it conservative?
I think that I think they are gonna air it out a bit in this game. I mean, I the Colts, they don't have any great pass rushers on this team. Obviously the big guy in the middle, DeForest Buckner, is one of the best in the league. And as opposed to guys that they've limited before, like JJ Watt or a Jarrell Casey, those interior guys who sort of move and do a lot of things. The Patriots can run those guys out of games. DeForest Buckner is just going to go up the middle. He's tough to move. He's like 600. He's like 6'6", like 300 pounds. He's a mountain of a man. Him and Grover Stewart are very good in the interior. They're very tough to move. But I think for that reason, I look for the Patriots to throw early, soften things up. I would be a little bit hesitant to throw on the edges against Kenny Moore and Xavier Rhodes, the two cornerbacks. They're both excellent. But the thing is, the Colts play a lot of zone, and they will have some designer looks, especially with 2 weeks of rest and preparedness for this game, just like the Patriots. I love that both teams are coming off a bye, so they're both even in terms of preparation. But to me, the Colts lost their both starting safeties very early on in this season. And to me, whether it's Kari Willis or Andrew Sendejo is the guy. He's been around forever, former Eagle. He's almost he's like that guy on the Chiefs, Sorensen, that you saw last night.
Yeah.
Who I hate Daniel Sorensen.
Yeah,
he's one of the worst players in the league. I can't believe he still has a job. And Sendejo's very much the same way. If I'm the Patriots, they are going to have opportunities down the field against the safeties with their tight ends. Just look out for Darius Leonard underneath. But if you can get it in the seams and down the field, I'm looking forward to a shot play where they run an under and Nelson Aguilar over, and they try to hit Nelson Aguilar in about a 70-yard touchdown. I look for that tonight.
Yeah.
Yo, ye of little faith, John. It's coming. The Nelson Aguilar, Taylor Price breakout game is coming.
Captain Clear Out, Nelson Aguilar. Yeah, people would like to see that, and you're right. This is maybe one of those where, again, I mean, you hear, you hear the quotes coming out of Indianapolis of expect the unexpected. I do think you're going to see things from the Patriots you haven't seen in the last couple of weeks here, because I think they might have to, try to do things that they haven't been doing. I don't know if you're going to just, go punch for punch with the Colts here and just hand the ball off 40 times and be able to win this game. And this might be the Mac game. Maybe it's the Aguilar game. Who knows? Greg, couple other things that you are confident that the Patriots are going to be able to accomplish against the Colts in this game.
Yeah, I think running on the edges, they are very tough to run in the interior. We talked about why, DeForest Buckner and those guys in there, Darius Leonard. But the edges is where, the Colts are weak in the running game. Kwity Paye is a rookie first-round pick out of Michigan, a good ball player, local kid, Providence, Bishop Hendrickson. He's a good player, but he's the type of guy that the Patriots target. Like, those rookies, they don't really know how to set the edge that well. So look for the Patriots to pummel him. So I think they'll be able to run the ball on the edges, maybe get some boot action off of those, little outside zone, and then boot action up top. And then Carson Wentz after the first read. Part of the reason why I think the Patriots have a real shot to win this game, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. And, Carson Wentz, I have a lot of respect for him. But the thing is, I trust Mac Jones more if the first read is going to be taken away. And I think the Patriots take the first read away from Carson Wentz. And when that happens, he starts to get a screw loose. He starts to get hurried up. He gets panicked. That's when he starts making problems, fumbling, throwing. He's going to throw the ball to the Patriots. If they catch it, that could be the difference in the game. So I like the Patriots giving Carson Wentz difficulties in this game.
Well, that's one of the things. And again, I guess 2 two things with that. One, can the pass rush get home? Because obviously that's been key with the Patriots since they kind of shifted to the zone heavy sort of scheme. Is the pass rush has been getting home, but one of the things you talked about is Matthew Judon, who never comes off the field and has been clearly the best player for the Patriots in that regard, has looked a little bit gassed, the last couple of weeks and not bringing it with the same, consistency that he was through the first 10 games of the year, 10, 11 games.
Yeah, you're 100% right, John. I think the whole key to why the Patriots have been able to play so much zone defense is because their pressure has gotten home, and it's really been two guys. It's been Judon and it's been Christian Barmore.
And Barmore might not be on the field a ton because you've got to have the heavy package in a little in obvious passing situations, yes, but this might be a light Christian Barmore sort of game.
Yeah, it could be. And plus, both of those guys, had it from a pass rushing perspective, and Buffalo's a little bit skewed, so it's hard to tell. But both of them had their fewest pressures in the past couple of games where they basically had half of the Patriots' pressures. And if you get consistent pressure on the quarterback, you can play as much zone as you want. Once that starts getting blocked up, and this will probably be the best offensive line that they've seen with, Eric Fisher and those guys in the interior. They're all pretty good. They can all hold their own. If the Patriots don't get pressure, they're going to have a tough time.
Yeah. And you mentioned Wentz will throw it to the Patriots. One of the huge reasons that Colts have been successful this year on offense, he has not done that. It's a 22 touchdowns to 5 interceptions only here. So they have been able to keep Wentz from making those mistakes this year. And obviously a lot of that is because of the strength of their running game that people have to kind of sell out for. But you do want to put the ball in Wentz's hands as much as possible and make it hard for him.
Yeah, some Patriots fans probably won't like this, but I don't see them continuing to win out. So it's either this week or next week against the Bills. And while the Bills will be red ass and want revenge, and, that's going to be a tough game, I think the Colts are a really tough matchup for the Patriots. Not that they're great. I mean, I think they're both somewhat even. They're both somewhat similar teams.
Yep.
And I think they both have good coaches. I do worry about Frank Reich. He's one of these guys who does fall in love with his offense a bit too much. And, including not running Jonathan Taylor. Really, if you watch Hard Knocks against the Bucs, they were winning 10 points most of the game. And Quentin Nelson, the guard, had to come up to Frank Reich and be like, can we just get a straight running play here? JT needs to get fed. And he's the leading rusher in the league and you're not, mixing him in. And after the game, Frank Reich said, I have no problem with what we did. I wish we would have, run the ball less. And so that worries me. But to me, I think the Colts get off to a really good start. I think that they're going to be one team. I've wanted to see the Patriots defense against a balanced offense that can run and pass. I think the Colts are that team. They're tough-nosed. They killed the Bills in Buffalo. They gave the Bucs all they could handle at home. We know how good the Bucs are. To me, I think the Colts are the hotter team right now in terms of where they are. And I think that I'm going to pick the Colts by 3. I'm going to say 27-24. I like the Colts to edge out the Patriots, but, we'll have to see.
All right. I agree with almost everything you said, but for some reason, Greg, I'm kind of leaning towards the first come-from-behind win of Mac Jones' professional career in this one. And it's going to be a who has the ball last sort of situation. I'm actually predicting the Colts will have the ball last, but they're not going to get the points that they need to score. The Patriots are going to come from behind in this one with a late Mac Jones touchdown. They are going to get beat up. They're going to get bloodied up. They're going to give up some points. But I have it. What did I have? 30-27 Patriots coming from behind here. So.
Yep.
You can go with
It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
It's going to be a good game. This is a good game. And as we talked about on the pod, there's a lot of games where you didn't know a lot about the Patriots. I think you'll you'll have some questions answered, I think, after this one, because it's going to test them. It's going to test them in a lot of different ways. Before we wrap it up, we want to get to our Boston Sports Journal member question of the day. Check us out over at BSJ for $39.99, our annual plan. Not only do you get top-notch analysis of all the Boston pro sports, but if you're a Patriots junkie, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, a membership at BSJ gives you access to all of Bedard's video analysis, coaching film, direct access to him in weekly chats. And there's one on Friday, depending on when you listen to this. Let's get to the question. It's from Vin B. Vin B says he's a little surprised, disappointed. We have seen 0 snaps for Ronnie Perkins. I know it's a bit of a numbers game on the edge. I would assume that if Perkins showed anything at all at practice, he would have some playing time. Any thoughts? And again, worth mentioning, you're not just not seeing Perkins snaps. You're not seeing Uche. You're not seeing Winovich when they've been healthy and out there. There's not a lot of wiggle room there in that position. Those guys are nowhere to be found.
It's amazing to me that it's almost every week I get Ronnie Perkins questions.
Yeah.
Like, did they think he was Lawrence Taylor? Like, right. I mean, like, what's the deal? And like, I did think he was a good player in college. I think he's their type of player. But this is the reason why I was trading Chase Winovich every week during training camp. Like, it's a numbers game. He is behind the pecking order. Right now it's Josh Uche and Kyle Van Noy, and then it's Chase Winovich. Then it's Josh Uche, and then it's Ronnie Perkins. Yeah. He has a redshirt year. He's probably going to end up going on. Probably going to end up going on IR. Suddenly, he showed up on the injury report this week. Big injury. So that means that he's about to be moved to injured reserve to finish off the redshirt year. But that's the problem. I mean, when Bill Belichick keeps Chase Winovich around, to bathe in the waters of New Hampshire and become a mountain man to play on special teams here, like, this is what you get, and that's why I wanted Chase Winovich out of the way. So some of these other guys who need playing time, or at least the hint of playing time, practice time, would get it. And instead, Ronnie Perkins has just been standing around during his rookie year. I still think he's going to be a good player here. I don't think it's a big deal that he didn't play this year, but when you bring back a bunch of old guys like Van Noy and you signed Matthew Judon, who's been tremendous, the younger guys are going to pay the price. We knew this was going to happen. It's not a surprise. I don't know anything about his development. He's not blowing their hair by his usage this year. So take it. It's a redshirt year. Hopefully he learns from it. And next year, maybe some of these guys move on and he earns a job. I think he will. I think he's going to be a damn good player here.
Okay, so to sum up everything we've learned on this podcast, the Patriots are going to be the 2 seed. They're going to lose to the Colts this weekend. They're going to get upset by the Titans at home in round 2 of the playoffs. Josh McDaniels is going to take another job, and you can stuff it with your Ronnie Perkins questions.
And analytics are stupid.
And analytics are stupid. If you didn't listen to the first 45 minutes or so, that should sum it all up here at the end. You could just fast forward to the end. Quickly, again, just to tell you about our sponsors one last time. LinkedIn Jobs, go to linkedin.com/Bedard. If you're looking to hire people, post your first job for free. Once again, linkedin.com/Bedard. And of course, head over to Boston Sports Journal for all the coverage leading up to Saturday's game against the Colts. And then, of course, immediately following, that night and then the next day, as Greg breaks down what we saw with a huge game here on Saturday. Until then, everybody, enjoy your weekends, and we'll talk to you later.